This video is going to be a film study evaluation of David Long Jr., focusing on his play from 2024 with the Miami Dolphins. He's the Lions' most recent acquisition on the defensive side of the ball to fill or plug a hole created by yet another injury. In this case, Alex Anzalone, out for 6 to 8 weeks with a broken bone in his arm. Long is a veteran inside linebacker, 28 years old, comes over from the Dolphins. They had let him go. Signs with Detroit for a practice squad. It's quite obvious to me that he'll be elevated on game days. He's got the type of ability to play a lot of snaps. I will tell you what I had seen when he played with Tennessee first. He was always very active, extremely smart and aware. You would see him calling or making checks at the line of scrimmage with the front 6 or 7. Extremely violent football player. I thought that whole defense at 2019, 2020, 21, that 3-year stretch where he was in his second to to third year, it was just a collection of guys who played the game hard, played the game very well on the defensive side of the ball under Vrabel. He leaves Tennessee, 2-year deal, $11 million with the Dolphins. He did make 113 tackles in 2023, I believe led Miami on the defensive side of the ball there. 9 tackles for loss, 6 quarterback hits. This year seems to be different. There's definitely a different evaluation out there for his play. They signed him for 2 years, $11 million, and suddenly let him go halfway through the 2024 season. Now, Miami's season is pretty much over at this point. I have film that I'm going to focus on from the last game where he played significant snaps. Pretty much 100% of the snaps in the Week 8 loss to the Cardinals, 28-27. Miami had led for most of the game. Since then, since Week 8, hasn't played a single defensive snap in the last 2 weeks, all special teams. So there's an interesting dynamic there. I don't pretend to know what exactly happened. It does get late early out there sometimes for players in the NFL. 28 years old is considered old in certain situations. He still looks quick to me. He still looks violent and fast. I think he maybe overruns some run concepts at times, and you'll see the film that'll kind of speak for that a little bit more clearly than I do here. I think it's a good signing for where the Lions are with their health, to see if a guy like this can grab a hold of another opportunity to play and stick around in the NFL for longer. He's a smart veteran, in my opinion, who still retains athleticism. I'm not sure that he can replace Anzalone one for one. And what I mean by that is the pass coverage. I don't know that he's a man-to-man cover guy as an inside linebacker. Certainly not the manner that Aaron Glenn utilizes Anzalone. People outside the Lions fan base probably don't realize it, but he's asked to guard tight ends man-to-man, in fact, press man at times, so Aaron Glenn can push corners and Brian Branch over to the other side of the formation. It's something that bit him against the Texans with the long completion to, I think, Dalton Schultz, but otherwise has served them extremely well. I just on surface observation, I don't think David Long is going to be able to replace that element. Everything else, against the run, playing violently, being very aware and strong and smart, I think it's possible that he can give you a lot of the things that Anzalone did, maybe not consistently, however. Let's get to the film, and again, we're going to only focus this on the game against Arizona in Week 8. This is the first play of the game, first play on defense that I saw, and I was like, well, I hope this is David Long. It was. There's a big-ass gap that's opened up here, all right, and he takes on the second puller. So you've got a guard and then a tight end also pulling out to the edge. So the first puller is going to kick out 51, the edge defender, and the second puller gets blown up by David Long. But unfortunately, there's nobody else there to help out with it until Jordan Poyer arrives. It's only a 4-yard gain for Connor, don't get me wrong. From the end zone angle, you can see what I mean. So he's decisive. He's a professional inside linebacker, in my opinion. Are there some things that maybe he didn't do as well in 2024 as he did previously? I don't know. I can't identify those things from the 3 games I watched. I'm only going to focus this video on this particular game. You see they've stemmed Calais Campbell down, and so he's going to get combo blocked here, basically shortening the edge for the running back. David Long Jr. is going to go over the top and scrape tight, and that's going to allow him to get into the backfield, take on the second tight end puller, but there's a huge lane there. Nobody else to occupy it. The edge defender's been kind of kicked out. Ends up being a 4-yard gain for Connor. I picked that one to show, number one, his decisiveness when he's got something downhill, he's willing to come downhill and smack somebody in the mouth. I think he's a smart football player. Now, I do believe he kind of overruns this a little bit. Thankfully, Jordan Brooks on the backside makes a nice tackle. You will get the end zone angle. He's a communicator. So when he sees something that has been out there on film, he will point it out and communicate to guys on the defense. You need that, I think, now with so much talent lost on this Detroit defense for injury, and they just keep on rolling for real. The end zone angle is going to give you a better appreciation of this. There is a hold on this play, to be honest with you, on one of the D tackles for Miami. So this is David Long Jr., and this is Jordan Brooks. It's a zone concept. He seems to let me rephrase that. In my opinion, there are times where it looks like he's overrunning things a little bit to the front side. If he's going to be the boundary side inside linebacker, you may want that. He may end up being the force player at times. You can take your boundary side defensive end and kind of wrong arm things, but you get an idea of what I'm talking about here. He flows over the top to fit here. I'm not sure how exactly they're fitting this, but you've certainly got a gap that was in this area here that it looked like pre-snap Long was responsible for. Brooks looked like he was responsible for this backside gap, and sure enough, that's where he jumps through and takes it. Long is out of the picture. Is it as bad as I'm presenting it? No. I mean, it depends on how you play it. If you want to play it by having people stretch things out and letting your inside linebackers run, you certainly can. All right, moving on. This is still the first quarter. Dolphins are up 10-0 at this point. I did think that he was focused on the quarterback a lot. And so he's not breaking until the ball was thrown and not really identifying routes. You got a snag concept here. So tight end out into the flats. Marvin Harrison Jr. kind of sitting down, little angled hook. And he's there, and you see this dynamic exist 3 times in this game, whereby a short completion to a receiver or a tight end is secured, and then David Long Jr. makes the tackle immediately. He looks like a zone defending inside linebacker to me, one who focuses on the quarterback a lot and doesn't, at least in the film that I have from 3 games, doesn't necessarily open and look for routes to collision and or defend from inside out leverage. And in some cases, perhaps this one, it makes him a step behind in getting there because he's not breaking until the ball is thrown. NFL teams do this a lot with their second-level defenders. Don't get me wrong. It's taught. I'm not sure that the Lions teach it as much because they play so much man. Second quarter now, you get an idea of how violent he is. Again, I think he's a little wide on this, but he's decisive. Whatever their scheme is with the Dolphins, there's some differences, I think, between their scheme and Detroit's with Aaron Glenn. I think he will adjust. He looks like he is a veteran inside linebacker. I was always extremely impressed with his play in Tennessee, so you got to take that into the equation. Your own experience, observations of Tennessee may not be of the same quality as mine. They always gave the Ravens so much trouble. When you get the end zone angle, you'll see what I mean. Now, he's very good at taking on blocks. Like, that foot is in the ground. That foot is stuck in the ground, and he's able to, quote, set an edge. So he's a very strong player, violent with great hips and great ankle strength, because once he gets that foot in the ground, the edge is set. He's not an edge defender, outside linebacker, defensive end, but conceptually it's the same thing. You've got to shorten the edge for your teammates, and in this case, it works out. So you can see he almost overlaps this defensive tackle here and then gets his foot in the ground like I described. You can see his ankle right in here, and then a teammate is able to be inside out on it. So if the Lions wanted to play him to the boundary and Jack Campbell to the field, I think from a run defense standpoint, you can make that work. Jack Campbell's going to fit things up perfectly pretty much every time. Off of, if you wanted to do it another way, if David Long Jr. wanted to go in between these 2 offensive linemen tight and kind of wrong arm this and blow it up, force the running back to bow it or bounce it outside. That's a scheme that you can utilize to get that done. It's also possible that he, being a veteran inside linebacker, recognized pre-snap that you had a wide receiver in Harrison and a tight end in McBride who could seal down, so you didn't want to spill it. You wanted to, quote, set it inside, which is what he's doing here. I love the pad level that he plays with when taking on blocks, whether he should do it like that is really up to the evaluation of the people who run that scheme and how they design their defense. I think you can fit him into the Lions scheme, and he can play right now. He's a more athletic, better run defender than Malcolm Rodriguez. I think there's really no comparison to me, but he's got to be disciplined and fit into the scheme the way that Aaron Glenn and those guys want to get it done. For me, I don't know David Long at all. I don't know anything about him other than the fact he played college football at West Virginia. He's got almost 400 tackles in his career at the NFL level. I think he probably wants to stick around in the NFL, number one. Number two, how blessed are you that you get to leave the Dolphins? No disrespect to what they've got going on down there in Miami. Difficult, trying time for them with all the injuries to the quarterback. Anthony Weaver is the defensive coordinator. He was with the Ravens for a long time. We wish that we had been able to retain him in some capacity. I wish him well and hope that he succeeds no matter what happens with the staff there. I think Anthony Weaver will stick around. But from a David Long perspective, you have to feel blessed to move on from Miami to Detroit. Sure, he's not getting paid as much money. I have no idea what the buyout was or what it was like for him to be released/cut and how that works out with his contract. But this is an upgrade, and this is an opportunity to get on the field a lot here at the end of the season, and particularly in the playoffs. With Derek Barnes being lost, I want to caution you. I don't think David Long Jr. is a replacement for Derek Barnes as a, quote, hybrid edge defender, inside linebacker. He's capable of doing that in spots, but not with the consistency of Derek Barnes, in my opinion. But I haven't seen him cover running backs a ton. He hasn't been put in that position. This is a 3rd and goal. He's used as a blitzer. Here kind of bounces off of an offensive lineman, unable to get through. It's a 3rd and goal for Arizona. Like I said, they were behind for much of this game. David Long Jr. ends up, getting nothing done here. I have a very small sample size of plays here, 3 games. I chose the Arizona one to try to illustrate the progression of the game and a couple of patterns that I saw. I think he's a very good inside linebacker that they can use right now. Even on the Dolphins, I think he's better than the guy that they had playing the last 2 weeks. I don't know or pretend to know why he wasn't on the field at all. So boundary side, again, for Miami, and he's constantly one of the guys that identifies things in terms of direction and whether it's run or pass. He's flowing over the top again. I don't have the end zone angle of this one. This is actually Chop Robinson tackling the running back from behind. 3-yard loss for James Conner. My point in showing this one and some of the other ones is he communicates extremely well pre-snap with Jack Campbell's on top of everything. I think it'll be an interesting dynamic there because he's a veteran who's been around and seen a lot of things. I think it's strong personalities on Detroit's staff, coaching staff, strong focus in terms of what they're trying to get done, and I don't think he'll be a problem at all. Whether he was a behavior problem in Miami or not, I don't suspect that he was, but it does kind of make me take pause for a moment. Why was he let go? Perhaps just the manner, the flow of their season, how things have gone recently played a role in that. So you see a bunch of plays like this one in pass coverage. So this is McBride, and there is David Long. This is still second quarter. The Dolphins are up 10-7 at this point. Quick completions whereby the tight end is reading his leverage, and while he's being read, he's just looking at the quarterback. He's not doing anything. And look, there's people who will argue with me, and they believe in that wholeheartedly. I'm not saying you should never look at the quarterback. But in my opinion, you've got to get connected to the receivers at some point. I'm not saying he needs to be here. I would like to see him identify the tight end and be a little bit closer such that when he does break, he's got quick reactions. He's got great, when he puts his foot in the ground and burst, I think he's still got really good burst. He's there to challenge the play. I reject people who say that, you're only a good pass coverage guy if you get a lot of passes defensed and you get a lot of interceptions. You can be connected to the receiver such that the quarterback doesn't throw the ball there in the first place. It's more difficult to do that, in my opinion, when you're staring at the quarterback the whole time. Third quarter now, Dolphins are up 13-7, and the Lions have had trouble with this concept before. It's a little bit of a wrinkle on how to get it done. David Long is beat over the top by McBride for 37 yards. So Normally, when the run action is here, you're going to get the tight end flowing in the other direction. But the Cardinals do this in a unique way. They bring McBride underneath, almost a little bit similar to the Brock Wright touchdown against the Jets late in the 2022 regular season. And then he kind of climbs to the opposite side. Watch what Long does. He tries to collision the front side tight end. So I'm saying the front side is where the flow is going. James Conner right here. It's actually Jordan Brooks. You can partially see David Long's helmet just over the top. He's trying to collision that tight end, and as a result, he's a little bit off balance. McBride sees him in his path, so McBride adjusts and goes over the top, a little bit like a climb concept. Comes back to it. Certainly, he's beat 37 yards. So Anzalone's had trouble with that concept for two years plus. Jack Campbell had some issues with it this year as well. Do I think that it's going to continue to be a problem for this Lions defense? No, they seem to have played it better in recent weeks. I worry a little bit about if I was to say that there's a relative strength and weakness to David Long's game, I would say the strength is against the run. And the weakness is in pass coverage. So when I said at the beginning of the video that I didn't think he was a one-for-one replacement for Alex Anzalone, that's what I mean. He certainly got the athleticism to cover against the pass. I think there's got to be a little bit more discipline, whether you're in zone or man, in terms of where his eyes are looking. He's involved in a tackle for loss here. Gets blown up by, I believe this is Jalen Ramsey off the edge. Also, I think Agba, the defensive end. Long flows over the top, horizontal, ends up getting credit for the tackle for loss. It could have been any one of 2 or 3 guys on this particular play. He did have 9 tackles in this game. I think he had 11 tackles in week 2 or week 3 against the Bills. Pretty much a blowout loss at that point. Another game with 7 tackles. So he's had an impact this year. The pass coverage is a part that is going to sound pretty negative as we go along through here. This is David Long. 1st and 10, fourth quarter. Dolphins are up 27-18. I think he's getting too much depth. So you see he's on the quarterback in terms of his visual focus. And then he does open to the receiver. Because it's a wide receiver, I guess he felt threatened by it. He just gets too much depth. So Rondale Moore is running underneath. And then this is Wilson, the second guy through. In my opinion, David Long should be somewhere in that area near the left hash for the defense, the right hash for Arizona. Too easy of a completion. He's active. He's willing to tackle. He's actually the guy who dives in there and makes the tackle, but he's got too much depth, if you ask me. I think you're looking at a situation where he's overlapped with one of the safeties and shouldn't necessarily be in that spot. He should more so be in the middle of the field. Missed tackle here on a goal line situation. The Dolphins have stacked their defensive line inward, so they're going to force everything to go off tackle, and it works. David Long Jr. kind of gets a run through. It's a tight window, don't get me wrong. He's unable to get to the front side shoulder, nor is he able to control James Conner. You can see the opportunity to make a tackle there. I mean, no one else is involved at all. Absolute wide open running lane. He's the only guy there, so it's really good timing on that. We'll give you the end zone angle of it as well. It's okay for you to say, well, Coach, I'm not impressed right now. Well, I don't think he's coming in to start over Alex Anzalone. He's coming in to be a potential replacement because of all the injuries that are there at that position. Derek Barnes, Jalen Reeves-Maybin. Fortunately, Malcolm Rodriguez came back last week. This is a situation where you have a guy who has made plays in the NFL before. 400, almost 400 career tackles. I think 381 or 384. He's in position to make plays so far in 2024, whether it's against the pass or the run. Just various situations, he's been unable to make it happen. I think it's a smart, astute signing by Brad Holmes and the front office. Gives them an opportunity to put another NFL caliber defender on the field. That's what he is athletically. From an awareness standpoint, experience standpoint, he's a guy that can get on the field and you can use if he was here and you had your full complement of defenders, I still think he's a guy that you would trust to be on the field along with Alex Anzalone, Derek Barnes, Jack Campbell, Aiden Hutchinson, Marcus Davenport. He's a really good talent, in my opinion. 6-year NFL veteran, only 28 years old. He's got another shot here to have an impact for a good football team. Maybe he clashed with the coaching staff down there. I don't know. Anthony Weaver's a really strong personality, a really great football coach in his first year as a defensive coordinator after leaving the Ravens, like I said. Perhaps those two didn't get along. Perhaps the scheme is different. He's being asked to do different things. I don't know, but for whatever reason, it didn't look like the same high quality level of play in the small sample size I grabbed Monday night into Tuesday to get himself in position to make plays more consistently. Ended up with 113 tackles in 2023. Certainly wasn't going to get there this season by not starting and in fact missing some opportunities against the pass and the run as well, like you saw in this game against Arizona. I appreciate you guys' time. Let me know what you think of the video in the comment section. The signing, I think, is a good one, particularly for only a practice squad consideration. You get, I think, 3 elevations for David Long, but maybe it's different because he's a veteran. So, feel free to let me know in the comment section if that is the case. I know the Ravens have tried to do that with veterans before, and it's always a juggling act. If you think other Lions fans would appreciate or enjoy this film study video of David Long and what he brings to the table as a potential, quote, replacement for Alex Anzalone, a stand-in while Anzalone recovers from injury, hopefully gets back in time for the playoffs. If you think other Lions fans would enjoy it, please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.